Hi, everyone. It's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is Sabel Harris. So welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Krylios. I'm so grateful to be here.
Of course, it is certainly our pleasure having you here. So I want to start this off with having you just introduce yourself to our audience and give us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I am a community builder, advocate, educator, and I'm currently serving as advisory neighborhood commissioner for the U Street area. I'm also the daughter of Vietnamese boat refugees, and for the past decade, I've been proud to consider myself a Washingtonian and very humbled to have had the privilege to call Ward 1 my home.
Amazing, amazing. And so you've called Ward One your home now for a while, and now you're throwing your hat in the ring for the DC Council. Tell me why, what about this cycle that has, really gotten you ready to throw your hat in the ring for this?
It's actually really kind of made me think a lot about my roots and my
Mhm.
background. So, some of the things that I've seen kind of brought me back to so in 1975, my grandparents, my mom, aunts, and uncle came to the US after Saigon crashed. They fled Vietnam posing as fishermen, made it to a Thai refugee camp, and then later settled actually into the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. We later moved to Virginia Beach, where I'm originally from. But they came, here to the United States with just $10 in their pocket. And actually, I think Vietnamese dollars, so not even amounting to 10 US dollars, really escaping a situation that would have very likely had them killed.
Mm.
But they worked towards better days and stopped surviving and started thriving. And following in their footsteps, I came to DC with a similar dream. I am so thrilled every day to honor and celebrate the history of U Street, hearing the music outside the Reeves Center, enjoying some half smokes and just, catching sight of the Washington Monument, from my walks to work when I was walking to work. But as the years have passed, especially in the last couple of years, violence has increased in our ward. There
Mhm.
have been literal dumpster fires in alleys. In my alley, rent has increased. People are losing their jobs, and neighbors are telling me they are isolated and they're worried about what is happening.
I see, I see. And so you've touched on some of those issues that have got you concerned. And I want you to really go into those issues that you'd really love to tackle if elected to the Council of the District of Columbia.
Of course. So, safety is one of my number one issues, and it is something that I am hearing every single day from people who I'm talking to. And that is also interconnected with a lot of other issues that are I'm also focused on in my platform. So, safety as it relates to violence, as it relates to traffic safety and transportation, and safety in terms of housing security and job security. So there are so many issues that we're facing around this topic that people just generally want to, again, like I mentioned, stop surviving and start thriving. They don't want to turn inward. And the big point of my campaign is to figure out, how do we change the atmosphere? How do we make sure people do not feel so lonely that they turn inside and then they start to, either leave DC or they become, you know, victims of violence, whether they are participating in it or they're hurt or killed. And so, I'm figuring out, okay, we can't just throw money at problems. We can't just, say, okay, we're going to invest in this. And that is important. We have to do that first. But then we have to ensure implementation of it. So we have to look at, okay, what are those holistic solutions? We have
Yeah.
violence interrupters and they do incredible, important work, However, we've seen they work on a block by block basis, and that creates a scarcity of resources that when we're seeing other groups that don't get that funding or don't get those violence interruption services, they are then wondering, okay, well, what about us? How come we don't get
Yes.
this? And then so it perpetuates things further, or people feel less connected to their communities because there's trash everywhere and trash cans are overflowing, rats are outside. So,
Mhm.
how, if elected as council member, how can I address, those bread and butter issues of, hey, maybe we need to install another trash can, or, we need to install better lighting. We need to, not just fund youth programs, but ensure, older kids have those programs and have access to those things. So safety is number one. And then we're looking at other things like services, schools, and overall sustainability, and making sure Ward 1 and DC has things set up so we aren't becoming victims to the climate crisis as well.
That is so important. That is so important. Thanks for sharing. Let me know, what's your favorite thing about Ward 1 and living there?
So something that I have actually seen on Twitter, and I love seeing it, is there's a lot of folks sharing kind of Ward 5 Black history.
Mm,
And something that I want to make sure I honor and that I am a good ally is honoring and celebrating the history in Ward 1 as well too. So there's so much here. I'm thankful I live on U Street. So this
mhm.
is Black Broadway. And, I am, as commissioner, I do want to figure out, okay, how do we celebrate those things? How do we honor it instead of just knocking something down and building on top of it? How do we lift it up? So that is one of my favorite parts. I'm also a history buff. I studied history in school. And even though I work in marketing now and work in technology, that is something I always love reading about.
Mhm.
And something that I think, we need more voices around and we need to celebrate more of as well, too.
That's so important. Tell me, what makes you the best choice for voters in this upcoming election?
I think, as a voter myself, and something that I ask neighbors and residents, we do need to ask, how much longer are we willing to wait for change? Do we want to wait another 4 years to keep with the status quo? We've seen a lot of things happen in the last 8 years under our current leadership. So I think, we do need a new voice, and we need someone who is undaunted by political gain. I'm not a politician. I work, like I mentioned, I work in technology, I work in marketing, and I do love my job. But what I love even more is the community here. And I truly want to make an impact. And I think it does take someone who isn't kind of in it for the political favor, instead, someone who is saying, you know what, this needs to happen. We need to figure out how to stop the violence. We need to figure out how to get people the services they need without waiting, days or weeks or months. So I think, for me, I think it's time. It's time to have something new, to have someone new. And I truly believe, Ward 1 is one of the most diverse areas in DC. And we need a voice on council from someone who knows what it's like to feel different, whose family, my family lived without knowing where their next meal would come from, similar to a lot of families here in Ward 1. And, most importantly, someone who isn't afraid to fight for everyone here.
Thank you so much. When does voting begin for the Ward 1 DC Council member?
So I think that is still being determined. I am running in the primary, and that is
Mhm.
on June 21st. This year. I believe early voting should start at the beginning of June, and mail-in ballots should also be delivered kind of in that time frame as well too. I think they are still working that out. But a good date to remember is June 21st. And then there will be more information in the prior weeks leading up to it of, when someone can maybe go to vote early or when they can mail in their ballot or potentially even drop it off at a drop-off box.
Certainly. And to our viewers, those dates are very important to note. I know for DC, the last day to be registered to vote in these elections is May 31st. So you can go to headcount.org right now to check your status and register to vote. To close it out, Sabel, how can people learn more about you, learn more about your campaign, follow, support, donate, all of that? How are they able to do that?
Sure. So more information about me can be found on my website on sabel4ward1.com, and that's spelled Sabel. That's another way I'm breaking the mold. If elected, I would actually be the first Asian American person to serve on council.
Wow.
So again, this is a historic campaign, not just with my name, but also with who I am.
Thank you so much. And the link will be in the description. So viewers, go ahead and check that out. Sabel, thank you so much for joining me today. It has certainly been a pleasure, and I wish you the best of luck on your campaign.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to our viewers, please follow Team Racine Productions on all forms of social media, like, comment, and subscribe. But most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.